Why Jesus? I mean, crucifixion, it seems to me, was not an unusual thing. I mean, it seems to me that the fact that there were two other people crucified along with him suggests to me that it was something that, a common thing. Not saying that it happened every day, but so nothing unusual about that. And other preachers all around doing the same stuff that he was doing, maybe. Didn't one of the gospel writers say something about, when, he kind of threw back at the religious leaders or whoever, in whose name do you say that all these other people are doing all the things that they're doing? Seems to suggest that there were other people, preachers, troublemakers, insurrectionists. Yeah, walking all over the place, shouting, saying all the stuff they want to say, doing the stuff they want to say, And I'm not talking about exegesis, hermeneutics, theology, those big words here. I've read the Bible from cover to cover in several translations, so I get that. But my question, though, is something like this. Why would anybody write about him? I mean, even if there was only one source, why would anybody write about it? I mean, what was so newsworthy about it all? And please, I'm not trying to debate with anybody. I'm not trying to make any conclusions. I'm really exploring a question. And I can't recall that I've read much about it. I've looked on Google and other search engines, what was so unusual about Jesus, based on what I read in the New Testament, there was after he was gone, there was a sort of a rumor mill or a lot of talking about, an oral tradition for about a generation, a whole generation before anything was written. Writing, you had to be pretty smart to do that in those days. And how many of the people in that day actually read anything Greek, even Koine Greek, let alone 4 Gospels and all of the others that weren't canonized. But a generation passed, so it's just all this talk about this guy that was, for all I can tell, fairly ordinary. I mean, it's kind of like there being a New York Times headline news story about me. There's really nothing that I think that needs to go in there with a headline. And then let's just say that the canon hadn't been approved for 500 years. Why? What was the urge to write anything down about this ordinary guy? What was all the talk about this seemingly ordinary person? When I say ordinary, I'm talking about the fact that there was others all about doing sort of the same thing. Why would anybody bother to write anything down in the first place? Yeah. And even if they're, let's just say the New Testament, let's say the Gospels are all made up stories, but let's just say there is a historical person named Jesus, but, everything has been embellished, whatever. Why? I mean, why, why bother to do that? Why? Of all the things that people could write about, all the storytelling that people could do, and not that much was written that I know about. Even in the Gospels, doesn't have a whole lot of history in there. A lot of glossing over, a lot of general comments about events or whatever happening over large periods of time. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of what was so intriguing. I mean, we could point, say, the resurrection if you want to, but and I guess that would have been unusual. Of course it would, people don't die and then come back to life. Uh, I'm not saying it did or it didn't happen. I'm not saying what I believe and what I don't believe. I'm just, even if it did happen, why all these other stories? Yeah, why would anybody bother? What's so compelling? We're told that a lot of things he said had already been said by others. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you was not an uncommon line. I mean, it was put in other ways, but that basic gist was common in other places. And I don't know what the rendering should have been in the Greek or whatever language it was that he spoke. I don't know how many things he actually said that were actually original. Uh, I'm still intrigued, I think. Why did anyone bother? And please, let's don't get into this. Well, we wanted to make sure we got the story right. I get that too, but I'm still fascinated by the question, why would anybody? What was so newsworthy about it all? What was so compelling, intriguing? And then what was so intriguing about it all that anyone would want to write about it and develop a theology about it? And then later, why would a ruler make it make a state religion that revolved around that theology, that revolved around this person who was, for the most part, a pretty ordinary guy?